Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Teddy the One, the Lizard here again with a short video on how to correctly install the front wheel on a BMW F850GS or GSA. Stay tuned. The tools you need are going to be a torque wrench, a 12mm hex head socket, a T50 Torques bit for the brake caliper, and a T40 for the pinch bolts. So, the way I've left it, I've left it on a floor jack. I've left the axle in and the cap in, axle cap. So take all this off, remove the spacer, and remove the axle. Now, I keep all this really clean, no grease on it. It doesn't need to be greased. You want everything, you don't want anything to attract dirt or rubbish into it. It's all alloy, so it doesn't need grease. So I'll clean all this down first before I put it back together, and we'll go from there. Okay, like I said, give all this a good wipe down. It doesn't need grease on it. It's alloy. Make sure it's all nice and clean. Just make sure these pinch bolts are loose. Give that spacer a wipe. Everything's nice and clean. Now, you'll notice when this axle goes in, it actually sits hard on the shoulder inside this fork stanchion, and that's what we need to keep these forks parallel, is this fork stanchion, that seat hard up against this bevel, this chamfered edge. Now I know people go on about, you know, putting it in, leaving things loose, bouncing the shocks, bouncing it up and down to line it up, and that's fair enough. But it's less important on these bikes because, as you'll see, there's actually a chamfer on this axle, so it forces it. It forces the fork stanchion to seat properly. So, you know, basically, if that's not in flush, it's not right. So as long as it goes in flush, it will be right, but we'll get to that later. Right, before we go any further, take this brake caliper off. Just leave that hanging there. So, very carefully roll the wheel in to avoid damaging that ABS sensor. So you just want to get it in to there. Now the next trick is a little bit of finagling, is just to get that brake caliper over the disc. That's it. Right. Next trick, just seat this disc caliper over the rotors. You shouldn't have to push the pistons back or anything dramatic like that. Snug fit, but it does work. And then just line them up and put these in finger tight. Need to jack this bike up just a little bit. What you want to do is take an axle and just lift the wheel up slightly with your foot. Finagle it around, get it to there, through the other side, and you've got to get it over the shoulder of that axle bolt. There you go. See if you can see it's working from this side. So what I do now is put this cap in. I'll put all the torque specs up. I have put all the torque specs up at the beginning of this video, but so all these pinch bolts are loose. Okay, this is 37 foot-pounds. That's your 30, 32, 4, 6, 7. Now as I do this, you'll see the axle pull in on the other side as I do this up. There it goes, and that's in. Okay, just did one of those pinch bolts up. It did move. There you go. There you go. So now loosen the left-hand pinch bolts again. And tighten these pinch bolts to torque, which is 14 foot-pounds. So before we do that, we'll just do up this brake caliper. So with those bolts being loose, spin the wheel and apply the brake to centre the brake on the disc. So with the brake, these bolts to 28 foot-pounds. 28 foot-pounds. That's 22, 4, 6, 8. So, with the brake applied, you want to just do these up to keep that caliper centered over the rotor. Do need long arms or a friend. Okay, here we go. Perfect. And look at that. Perfect. Now we'll just back to these pinch bolts on the left hand side looking at the bike. We'll drop it down off the jack. And we'll just give it a few compressions to make sure everything's lined up. Do up these pinch bolts to 19 Newton meters. And that's that. Job done. Okay, it's pretty hot here. Thanks for watching, I appreciate that. It's a very simple job, and if you just take your time, work through the steps, it'll go fine. It'll be fine. Thanks for watching. Leave any comments if you've got any comments, and Be kind to each other and see you soon.